The scalpel sliced through the canvas like a lover's final goodbye. And Reese Harrington watched her masterpiece bleed crimson across the gallery floor. "You're nothing but a whore's mistake," her father's voice echoed from the mahogany-paneled study where he'd hurled the insult 20 years ago, the words carving deeper than any blade. In the dim light of her Beacon Hill attic studio, she gathered the shreds, her hands trembling, not from the cold November wind rattling the windows, but from the invoice burning a hole in her pocket, another $5,000 for her mother's chemo, due by dawn. Reese was 28, the black sheep of the Harrington Dynasty, a lineage of Boston Brahmins who built fortunes on shipping empires and whispered deals in smoke-filled clubs. Born to Evelyn Harrington, the ethereal poet who'd scandalized high society by marrying young and loving fiercely, Reese inherited her mother's fire, wild auburn curls that defied pins, green eyes that saw too much, and a body honed by secret midnight runs along the Charles River, all lean muscle and quiet defiance. But the family whisper started early. "That girl's no Harrington," they'd say. Code for the truth she'd hidden since 16. When she'd first kissed Sarah Ellis behind the stables at the summer estate in Nantucket. Lesbian. Disgrace. The word clung to her like the salt air of the harbor. Especially after Evelyn's diagnosis 3 years ago. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The kind that ate you from the inside out. Polite as a debutante's snub. Her father, Reginald Harrington III, hadn't spoken to her since the day he'd found her sketchbook. Pages filled not with debutante portraits, but with the soft curves of women in moonlit reverie. Sell the house. The cars, anything. He'd sneered over the phone last month, his voice crackling from his Palm Beach exile. But don't come crawling to me with your perversions funding this farce. So Reese painted. Not the sanitized oils her ancestors commissioned for their walls, but raw, visceral works, lovers tangled in shadowed sheets, women's bodies arching like storm waves, colors bleeding with unspoken longing. She sold them under the pseudonym Riven, hawking pieces in underground galleries from Somerville Dives to Brooklyn Lofts. Each canvas a piece of her soul bartered for 4 drips and morphine vials. That night, after taping the ruined painting, a feverish depiction of 2 women locked in a defiant embrace, she bundled it under her arm and slipped into the November chill. The streets of Beacon Hill glowed under gas lamps, brownstones looming like judgmental ants. She headed for the Vale, a speakeasy gallery in the North End, where artists traded whispers and whiskey amid exposed brick and flickering neon. It was her lifeline, a place where the Harrington name meant nothing, only the stroke of a brush. Inside, the air hummed with jazz from a corner saxophonist, bodies swaying like brushstrokes on a live canvas. Reese scanned the room, her heart a staccato rhythm. There, behind the bar pouring absinthe into sugar cubes, was Lena Vasquez, the woman who'd upended her world 6 months ago. Pretty, with skin like sun-warmed terracotta and hair that cascaded like midnight oil, Lena moved with the grace of someone who'd danced through her own infernos. A painter herself, specializing in murals of forgotten queer icons splashed across warehouse walls in East Boston. She wore a red silk blouse that clung to her full breasts and hips, unapologetic as her laugh. They'd met here, over a spilled martini and a shared cigarette, Lena's dark eyes locking onto Reese's with a spark that said, "I see you. All of you." "Another ghost?" Lena asked now, sliding a gin neat across the scarred oak bar, her voice a low purr laced with concern. She leaned in, close enough for Reese to catch the scent of turpentine and jasmine. Reese forced a smile, unfolding the bundled canvas. "Just a casualty. Think you can fence it? Buyers in New York, Says it'll fetch $8,000 if I patch it quick. Lena's fingers brushed hers as she took the bundle, lingering a beat too long. Reggie's ghost again? She knew the stories, pieced together from late-night confessions between stolen kisses in Lena's loft overlooking the harbor. Kisses that had bloomed into something deeper. Lazy Sundays tangled in Lena's king-sized bed. Bodies mapping each other like uncharted coasts. Whispered dreams of fleeing Boston for a life in Provincetown. Painting side by side. The way Lena's hand would trace the scars on Reese's knuckles from punching a Harrington cousin who'd called her unnatural. Not Reggie, Reese murmured, sipping the gin. Its bite mirroring the ache in her chest. Mom's scan tomorrow. If it's spread, she trailed off. The words too heavy to launch. Lena rounded the bar, pulling Reese into the shadowed alcove where the jazz softened to a mournful wail. Their lips met fierce, desperate, tasting of salt and unspoken fears. Reese's hands roamed Lena's back, fingers digging into the curve of her waist, as if anchoring herself against the tide. Stay tonight, Lena breathed against her neck. Let me make you forget the invoices. Just for an hour. But Reese pulled back. Stormy. I can't. Not until she's stable. It was always this, the push-pull of love and duty. Her heart split between the woman who made her feel alive, and the mother who'd shielded her from the dynasty's wrath. Evelyn had known about Sarah at 16. Had held her as she sobbed, whispering, "Love isn't a sin, darling. It's the only holy thing we get." Now, bedridden in a cramped Back Bay apartment, Evelyn's love was Reese's chain, gilded with guilt. As Reese slipped out into the night, the bundled canvas under her arm felt like a shroud. She didn't see the figure in the alley across the street, her cousin Theo, Reginald's golden boy, nursing a cigarette and a grudge. His phone already dialing a number that would unravel everything. The next morning dawned gray and unforgiving. The kind of Boston November that seeped into your bones like regret. Reese arrived at Massachusetts General by cab. The ruined painting pawned overnight for a quick $4,000. Enough for the scan. Not the hope. Evelyn lay in her room overlooking the river. Frail as a watercolor wash. Her once vibrant red hair now a silver halo against the pillow. 62. She still held the poet's fire in her blue eyes, though pain etched lines around her mouth like footnotes to unfinished verses. "My fierce girl," Evelyn rasped as Reese entered, her hand veined and cool reaching out. "You look like you wrestled the devil again." Reese sank into the vinyl chair, forcing levity. "Just the usual suspects. How are you feeling?" She unpacked the styrofoam container of clam chowder from Legal Seafoods, Evelyn's ritual comfort, even when nausea turned it to ash. Like a ship listing in the fog, Evelyn's gaze sharpened, reading the shadows under Reese's eyes. "Lena." A flush crept up Reese's neck, warm as Lena's breath on her skin. "She's everything. But Theo called last night. Says the family's offering to cover the bills if I come home. Play the dutiful daughter at the holiday gala." Evelyn's laugh was a dry rattle. "Reginald's olive branch? More like a noose. He wants you leashed. Reese. Remember what he did to me after you were born? When he found my letters to Clara, the affair with the family governess, a secret Evelyn had buried deep, but not before it cracked the dynasty's facade. Don't trade your soul for my breath. Love. Live for the colors, not the chains." The doctor interrupted then, clipboard in hand, his face a mask of practiced empathy. "Mrs. Harrington. The scan shows progression to the liver. We can adjust the regimen, more aggressive chemo, but quality of life. Reese tuned out. The words abuzz like fluorescent lights. Progression. Always progressing. Like the cancer was on a victory lap. By noon, she'd wired the pawn money and scheduled the next round. Her bank account a redline obituary. Back in the studio, she attacked a fresh canvas, Lena as Athena. Fierce and unyielding. Spear raised against shadowy patriarchs. The brush flew. Ochre and ultramarine bleeding into fury. Until her phone shattered the trance. Lena? Meet me at the dock now. Theo's text. Innocuous on the surface, but laced with the venom of family vendettas. He was 32. All ivy polish and Harrington entitlement. Groomed to inherit the shipping conglomerate. They'd grown up sparring in the echoing halls of the Nantucket estate. Reese the tomboy climber of apple trees. Theo the boy with model boats and a sneer for her unladylike ways. But betrayal had festered. He'd always resented her. The disgrace who dared to be herself. She arrived at the harbor as dusk bruised the sky. Gulls wheeling like accusations. Theo waited by the weathered pilings. His Burberry coat flapping like a flag of surrender. "Cousin," he drawled. Voice smooth as aged scotch. "Family's worried. Dad says you're spiraling selling those abominations to strangers." Reese's fists clenched. Paint still flaking from her nails. Abominations? That's rich from the man who bankrupted 2 charities for tax dodges. "What do you want?" "Theo." He stepped closer. Eyes glinting with something darker than salt spray. "A truce. Come to the gala. Charm the donors. In return, the bills get paid, no strings, except you tone down the lifestyle." His gaze raked her. Lingering on the faint hickey Lena had left that morning. A map of rebellion. "And if I say no?" The wind whipped her curls, mirroring the storm in her gut. Theo's smile was a blade. "Then I tell the tabloids about Evelyn's little secret. The affair that birthed the Harrington whore. Imagine the headlines. Your mother's dying with that on her soul." The world tilted. Clara. The governess. Reese had pieced it together years ago. From Evelyn's locked journals. But this? Blackmail. Dressed in Brooks Brothers. "You bastard," she whispered, lunging. But Theo sidestepped, laughing low. "Think on it. Gala's Friday." He melted into the twilight, leaving her alone with the waves' indifferent roar. That night, in Lena's loft, a sunlit chaos of easels and half-finished murals, Reese confessed over takeout falafel and red wine. The space smelled of sage and sex. Canvases leaning like lovers against the walls. Frida Kahlo reborn in Boston grit. Women of color wielding brushes like weapons. Lena listened, cross-legged on the futon. Her full lips pursed. Dark eyes flashing. "He's bluffing," Lena said finally, pulling Reese into her lap. Hands splaying possessively over her thighs. "Harringtons don't air laundry, they burn it." Her kiss was fire. Tongues dueling as if to banish the poison. Clothes shed in a frenzy. Reese's tank top whispering to the floor, revealing the constellation of freckles across her collarbone. Lena's mouth followed, tracing paths down her abdomen, eliciting gasps that echoed off the high ceilings. They moved together, slow at first, exploratory. Lena's curves pressing into Reese's angles, a symphony of size and skin. Fingers delve, hips arch, until climax crashed like thunder, leaving them slick and spent, tangled in sheets that smelled of home. But doubt lingered. A shadow in the afterglow. What if he's not? Reese murmured. Head on Lena's breast. Heartbeat a lullaby. Then we fight, Lena replied. Fierce as her murals. Together. Friday loomed like a guillotine. Reese spent the days in a haze, painting feverishly, a triptych of fractured dynasties, gold-leaf Harrington crests crumbling into queer rainbows. She sold 2 pieces to a collector in Chicago, $12,000 wired by evening, enough to buy time. But not peace. Evelyn rallied for a visit, propped in her bed with a volume of Plath, her voice a fragile thread. Go to the gala if you must, but come back whole. Promise me. I promise, Reese lied, kissing her forehead, the scent of hospital antiseptic clinging like guilt. The gala was at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, that Venetian palace of excess where old money preened amid stolen Rembrandts. Reese arrived in a borrowed black gown, simple silk that hugged her lithe frame, slit high enough to scandalize, her curls tamed into a chignon, but her eyes wild as the harbor. Theo greeted her at the courtyard fountain, champagne flute in hand, his arm linked with a vapid blonde debutante. See? You clean up nice. Dad's in the corner. Brooding. Reginald Harrington III cut a figure from a faded daguerreotype, silver temples, aquiline nose, as like chipped ice. He nodded curtly as she approached, the crowd parting like the Red Sea for Moses in pinstripes. Evelyn's bills, he said without preamble, voice a low rumble. Paid in full. If you behave, behave. The word slithered, conjuring boarding school rectors and locked closet doors. And the tabloids? Reese pressed, chin lifted. A ghost of a smile. Theo exaggerates. Family sticks together. Reese. Even the wayward ones. Relief ward with revulsion as donors swarmed, handshake sticky with condescension. Whispers about poor Evelyn veiling barbs at the artistic phase. She endured. Glass after glass. Until Lena texted. Where are you? Studio's empty. Miss your fire. Guilt twisted like a knife. She'd told Lena it was just recon, scout the enemy. But here she was, playing pawn. Then, the shatter across the room. Amid the Renaissance tapestries, Theo leaned into a silver-haired trustee, words slurring. Sold her soul for pussy paintings. Disgrace. Absolute. Reese's vision tunneled. She crossed the floor in a blur. Champagne splashing. Grabbing his lapel. You lying sack. The room hushed. Forks pausing mid-air. Reginald's face purpled. Reese. But she was already fleeing. Heels clicking like gunfire on marble. Out into the courtyard where rain began to fall. Soft as tears. The rain turned biblical by the time Reese reached the harbor docks. A deluge that soaked her gown to translucence. Silk clinging like a second skin. She stumbled to the edge. Waves gnashing below. The city lights fracturing into prisms through the downpour. Betrayal burned hotter than the cold. Theo's casual cruelty. Reginald's conditional grace. Evelyn's fading light. And Lena? Lena. Who deserved more than this half-life of stolen nights and shadowed fears. Her phone buzzed. Insistent as a heartbeat. Lena. Outside the museum. Saw you run. Where? Reese typed with numb fingers. Doc 7. Come alone. Minutes stretched like taffy. Then headlights pierced the gloom. A battered Jeep screeching to a halt. Lena bursting out in jeans and that red jacket. hair frizzing in the wet. Reese, she sprinted, slipping on slick planks, pulling her into a crushing embrace. What the hell happened? Close. Lena was a vision, rain-streaked cheeks, eyes wide with worry. The jacket unzipped just enough to reveal the swell of her breasts rising with frantic breaths. Reese broke then, sobs racking her as she clutched fistfuls of leather. It's all lies. Theo, he threatened Mom's secret. The affair. Dad's paying bills but wants me tamed. Can't breathe. Lena. This city. This blood, it's choking me. Lena held her, murmuring Spanish endearments, mi amor. Tranquila, as thunder grumbled approval. They sank to the wet wood, backs against a piling, Reese's head on Lena's shoulder. The story spilled. The Gala's vipers. Thusler. Reginald's icy pact. Lena listened, fingers combing wet curls, until Reese fell silent, spent. You're not theirs, Lena said finally, voice steel wrapped in velvet. She tilted Reese's chin, thumb brushing a tear. Your art, Reese. Unbreakable. And I'm not letting you shatter alone. Their kiss ignited in the storm, hungry, unyielding, rain mingling with the salt of grief. Lena's hands roamed, unzipping the sodden gown, exposing Reese's skin to the electric air. No words now. Just need. Lena's mouth on her neck, teeth grazing collarbone, Reese arching, fingers tangling in black waves, pulling Lena atop her. The dock creaked under them, waves a primal chorus as clothes shed in heaps, gown pooling like ink, jacket flung aside. Skin to skin. Lena's curves molding to Reese's edges. They moved with desperate grace, lips exploring breasts, tongues tracing hips, fingers finding rhythm in the slick heat between thighs. Climax built like the squall, shattering in gasps that drowned the thunder, leaving them entwined, breath sinking with the ebbing rain. In the quiet aftermath, wrapped in Lena's jacket, Reese confessed the deepest cut. I sold the Athena to a collector who wants it sanitized, no spears, no shadows. For Mom. Lena stiffened. You what? It was $20,000. By 6 months. Maybe. Shame flooded Reese, hot as the harbor's undercurrent. Silence stretched, broken only by dripping eaves. Then Lena pulled away. Eyes shadowed. I get it, family's a beast. But you're selling you. Reese. Piece by piece, the accusation landed like a slap. Reese surged up, wrapping the jacket tighter. And what would you know? Your family's in Puerto Rico, painting murals and sending care packages. Mine's a goddamn guillotine. Lena's face crumpled, hurt flashing before armor clamped down. My family's scattered, Dad deported when I was 12. Mom working doubles to keep the lights on. I clawed for this loft, every mural a middle finger to the world. But I don't whore my soul for scraps. Whore. The word echoed Theo's venom, and Reese recoiled as if burned. Is that what you think I am? After everything? I think you're scared, Lena shot back. Standing, rain sluicing down her bare arms. Scared to choose us over them. So you paint pretty cages and call it survival. The fight escalated. Voices rising over the wind, Reese hurling accusations of naivety. Lena countering with pleas to flee. To Provincetown. To freedom. In the heat, truths tumbled. Lena's own secret. A grant application for a queer artist residency she'd hidden, fearing Reese's baggage would sink it. I didn't tell you because you'd bolt say it was too much. Like now. Betrayal doubled. A 1-2 punch. Reese grabbed her discarded gown, clutching it like armor. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm poison. She fled then, barefoot on the planks, the Jeep's taillights blurring through tears as Lena called after her. The cab ride home was a blur of neon and nausea, dropping her at the Back Bay apartment where Evelyn slept, oblivious. Saturday blurred into fevered work, canvases birthing monsters, Harrington crests morphing into thorns, lovers' bodies rent by gold chains. Theo texted ultimatums. Reginald wired $50,000 with a note, behave. Reese ignored them, funneling funds to the hospital. But the emptiness gnawed. Lena's silence was a void, her loft a forbidden shore. By Sunday, Evelyn worsened, fever spiking, breath shallow. Reese sat vigil, reading aloud from her mother's unpublished poems, verses of forbidden loves and stormy seas. Clara was my lightning, Evelyn whispered in a lucid haze. Don't fear yours, darling. Theo arrived unannounced that evening, reeking of cologne and conquest. Dad's furious, you ghosted the after-party. Sign this. He thrust papers, a trust fund clause, binding her silence on family indiscretions for the money. Get out, Reese snarled. But he lingered, eyes gleaming. Lena Vasquez. Right? Cute. I had my guy dig, turns out she's got debts taller than your ego. That loft? One missed rent from eviction. Rage blinded her. She shoved him, paper scattering like confetti at a funeral. Touch her, and I'll burn it all down. Theo laughed, straightening his tie. Try it. Disgrace. See how fast Evelyn's obituary mentions Clara. He gone. Reese shattered a mirror with her fist, blood blooming like poppies. She texted Lena Harbor. Now. End this. The dock was a ghost town under sodium haze, fog rolling in like amnesia. Lena arrived wary, arms crossed over her jacket. What now? Another ultimatum. Reese held out the bloodied papers, voice cracking. Theo knows about your debts. He's using us to break me. Lena's face paled, then hardened. And you believe him? After everything? I don't know what to believe. Reese paced, the planks groaning. This it's the only real thing. But it's drowning in their shit. Mom's dying. Lena. I can't lose her and you. The dam broke. Lena closed the distance, cupping Reese's face, thumb smearing blood and tears. Then don't. Choose. But choose whole. Their kiss was cataclysm, teeth and tongues, hands frantic, tearing at clothes in the fog's embrace. Jacket shed. Blouse unbuttoned. Lena's breasts freed to the chill air. Reese's shirt ripped open, nipples hardening under Lena's palms. They collapsed against the piling. Lena's thigh parting Reese's legs, fingers plunging deep as mouths devoured. It was raw, reclaiming, hips grinding, cries swallowed by mist, orgasms ripping through like gales, binding them in sweat and salt. Panting, foreheads pressed, Lena whispered, I'm in. That Dynasty, fuck it. But no more half measures. Reese nodded, the weight lifting like fog at dawn. But dawn brought the call. Evelyn, seizing in the night. Rushed to ICU. Monitors beeping dirges. Her mother clung by threads, whispering of Clara. of Reese's sketches, of love's defiant bloom. The ICU was a sterile purgatory, beeps and whispers underscoring the fragility of flesh. Evelyn stabilized by noon, but the doctor's words hung like shrouds. Comfort, care. Days, maybe a week. Reese sat frozen, Lena's hand in hers a lifeline across the vinyl divide. Theo lurked in the hall, Reginald's shadow. But for once, silence from the Dynasty, perhaps sensing the endgame. That afternoon, in the hospital chapel, a quiet nook of stained glass and polished pews, Reese and Lena stole a moment. Sunlight slanted through, painting Lena's skin in ruby hues, her eyes soft as she traced Reese's bandaged knuckles. "Remember our first night? You painted me as a storm goddess. Said I scared you." "You did," Reese admitted, leaning into the touch. "Still do. In the best way." Lena's smile was bittersweet. "Good. Storms make rainbows." They made love there. In the alcove's hush, slow, sacred. Gowns hike, fingers and lips weaving promises. No frenzy now, but reverence. Lena's mouth on Reese's core, tongue a gentle tide. Reese reciprocating, savoring the taste of forever on Lena's thighs. Release came quiet, a shared sigh echoing the Vespers bell, sealing their vow. Evelyn rallied for one last lucid hour that evening, propped amid tubes, her eyes devouring Reese's face. "You brought her," she murmured, squeezing Lena's hand. "My girl found her lightning." Lena blushed, voice thick. "She's a force, Mrs. Ush. Like you." Evelyn's gaze turned to Reese, fierce even in frailty. "The paintings don't sell your soul, love. Sell the fire. And forgive them. Dynasties crumble, hearts endure." Reese choked on tears. "I love you, Mom, as I love you. All of you." Evelyn's breath hitched, then steadied. "Now go. Live." She slipped away at midnight, peaceful as a poem's close. The monitors wail a brief elegy before silence. Reese held her until dawn, Lena's arms encircling them both, a triad of grief and grace. The funeral was a farce of high society, Reginald's eulogy a litany of legacy, Theo's eyes averted. Reese spoke last, voice steady. Evelyn Harrington was no Dynasty's jewel. She was a poet, a rebel, a mother who taught me love's wild shape. She died free, and so will I. Whispers rippled. But Reese walked out, Lena at her side, into a Boston dusted with first snow. In the weeks that followed, the unraveling accelerated. Reese burned the trust papers in the studio hearth, the flames devouring chains. Theo's threats fizzled. Evelyn's journals, smuggled to a queer archive by Lena's contacts, turned scandal into story. The tabloids feasting on Harrington hypocrisy rather than secrets. Reginald called once, voice hollow. "You're throwing it away." Reese hung up, painting instead. A massive mural on the studio wall. Evelyn as muse, arm in arm with Clara. Lena and Reese dancing in their wake. They moved to Provincetown that spring, the Jeep loaded with canvases and dreams. Lena's grant came through, funding a gallery for outcast artists. Reese's Riven show sold out. Unsanitized, bodies bold. Love's unapologetic. Fetching $200,000 for scholarships in Evelyn's name. No more underground sales now. Galleries from Soho to Santa Fe clamored for her fire. Nights were theirs. Dune walks under Cape Cod stars. Bodies entwined on weathered decks. laughter echoing like jazz. Reese traced Lena's tattoos, roses and revolutions inked across her ribs, while Lena sketched Reese's freckles, calling her me soul. My son. One August evening. On the beach where waves kissed like confidants, Lena knelt in the surf. Ring glinting. A simple gold band etched with intertwined brushes. Marry me. Reese Harrington. Not despite the disgrace, but because of it. Let's build our dynasty, one stroke at a time. Tears mixed with salt water as Reese pulled her up, kissing her fierce. Yes. 1,000 times. The wedding was small, queer icons and fisherfolk on the dunes, vows exchanged with paint-smeared hands. No Harringtons came, but postcards arrived. Reginald's stiff congratulations, Theo's blank envelope hiding a check for Evelyn's foundation, 4-piece, scrawled inside. Years blurred into legacy. A daughter, born of donors and dreams, with Reese's curls and Lena's fire, galleries blooming across coasts, murals reclaiming cities, Reese's memoir, Disgrace's brush, a bestseller that humanized the fractures. In quiet moments, Reese would touch the scar from that ruined canvas, now a talisman. Born the disgrace, she'd sold not her soul, but her fears to keep love alive. And in Lena's arms, under American skies vast as possibility, she painted on strokes of storm and sun, a life unchained.